So, okay, let's start.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, many thanks. So, good morning, afternoon, evening to all distinguished panelists, participants, and colleagues. A very warm welcome to the 2021 meeting of the Global Partnership Initiative on Effective Triangular Cooperation. My name is Catalina Quintero, and I'm Director of Cooperation at the Colombian Presidential Agency of International Cooperation, APC Colombia. And I am pleased to be taking you through this meeting. Same as last year, the GPI is happy to be part of the celebrations of the United Nations Day for South-South Cooperation. Today, we are launching the brief Leveraging Triangular Partnerships to Respond to COVID-19 and Build Back Better from the Pandemic, co-authored by 9 GPI members who are part of the analytical work stream. We have a number of distinguished speakers today to reflect on the GPI's work, the findings and recommendations of this brief, and to discuss triangular cooperation and how we can use this modality to help us implement the 2030 agenda. Aiming to encourage a dialogue with all GPI members and participants, I will make sure we keep control of time and take questions from the audience. So, to open the event today, we have with us Mrs. Shogun Grace Wang, Deputy Director for Programming and Operations of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, and Mr. Paulo Esteves of the Brics Policy Center. Let's start with you, Mrs. Wang. Last Friday, we had the high-level commemoration of the UN South-South Cooperation Day, and today we also start the 76th session of the General Assembly. As a core group member of the Global Partnership Initiative on the Effective Triangular Cooperation, how do you frame triangular cooperation in this context? You have 3 minutes, Mrs. Wang.
Thank you very much, Catalina, and dear colleagues, thank you very much. As we celebrate the United Nations Day for South-South Cooperation, the theme is on solidarity in support of a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable future. And as you mentioned, Catalina, the 76th UN General Assembly starting today is focusing on building resilience through hope to recover from COVID-19, rebuild sustainably respond to the needs of the planet, respect the rights of people, and revitalize the United Nations. So the conversation today is very relevant and timely. As we face these unprecedented challenges today, the SG has highlighted in his video message for the South-South Day that the world needs deeper international cooperation to address the global health crisis, reduce poverty and inequality, achieve sustainable development goals, and avert climate catastrophe. So together, we must do much more. And that is the context that we're talking about triangular cooperation. Many of you recall the BAPA Plus 40 outcome document recognized triangular cooperation as one of such international development cooperation modalities that can build bridges and trust, combines diverse resources and knowledge and capacities under the ownership of the requesting developing country to support achieving sustainable development goals. And voluntary initiatives, including the GPI, has been introduced in the outcome document. SSC is a strong partner, and our mandate is to promote cooperation among developing countries and also coordinate UN system support to South-South and triangular cooperation. For example, our South-South Galaxy, many of you have been utilizing. It is a knowledge hub that not only get solutions and good practices from developing countries, but also from developed countries. It is not just about sharing knowledge, it's also about nurturing partnerships, South-South and triangular, to help replicate and scale up those solutions to benefit more people and countries. You also, some of you are part of the South-South Global Thinkers Network. It has over 250 think tanks, mostly from Global South, but also with active participation from think tanks from the developed countries, And triangular cooperation has been and will increasingly become an important area that will attract a lot of evidence-based analysis and to inform policy dialogues. Beyond sharing knowledge and brokering partnerships, we of course also practice triangular cooperation through our programs. For example, JACA has been supporting capacity development for institutions of development cooperation. We have partnered with NORAD and also ROK facility, Republic of Korea facility for development through South-South and triangular cooperation in science and technology has been working with countries in the region to exchange technologies and focusing on issues of priority in Cambodia, Indonesia, and this new phase in the Low Mekong Basin. So during this pandemic, we have worked with all partners, including many of you, in sharing knowledge and capacity building initiatives in COVID-19 responses and recovery solutions. There, we have expertise from over 150 countries, over 1,000 cities, supported by about 20 UN entities. The expertise, the diversity of the sources of knowledge and expertise come from both developed and developing countries. So in conclusion, I think we welcome the launch of the paper today and would like to see more such papers to be shared from partners to bring all perspectives and knowledge together and to inform the way we work together. We look forward to hearing from experiences and perspectives today from various countries, and SSC is committed to further strengthening South-South and triangular cooperation partnerships with government, other UN agencies, international financing institutions, think tanks, CSOs, private sector, and others. We look forward to increased collaboration with all of you. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mrs. Wang. Excellent speech. Now we turn to Mr. Paulo Esteves. He is from the Brics Policy Center. The Brics Policy Center is a GPI member, part of the analytical work stream. You have published an impressive work, co-authored by different partners. From the perspective of a think tank, how do you see this analytical output and the collaboration among GPI members? Mr. Esteves, please.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry about that. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Let me first express how honored I am in having the opportunity to join this debate and how happy I am in meeting, even virtually, many friends. Second, I think we must commend GPI's ability to generate a space where development agencies across the North-South divide, international organizations, civil society organizations, and research centers like my own institutions could interact and co-create the report that we are launching today. Jumping to your question, even though I guess I already started to answer it, I may say that such a co-creative process is as important as the output itself. In fact, it may sorry about that. Just a second, I lost myself here. The process of creating this report is as important as the report itself. In fact, the GPI created the opportunity for a joint research or a co-creative initiative where different actors are involved in co-designing, co-producing, and co-disseminate all the research. Every agent was equally involved and had the opportunity to influence and to contribute to the output that we are launching today. Such complex process allows a research institution first to align its research with social concerns and at the same time to grasp what are the easy, the hard, or even the impossible questions to be asked in a given moment of time. Beyond the research design process that allows a continuous exchange among, beyond the research design process, we have the conduction of the research itself, which allows a continuous exchange between scientists and different stakeholders. And such a process is probably much more richer than the process of academic research that we have in our own institutions. And finally, the dissemination process is not only dissemination, but it is also a validation of the findings that were presented in such a report. In this particular case, that we have today, we hope we may provide actionable knowledge on the ways triangular cooperation may strengthen partnerships in difficult times, like the ones we have during the last 2 years, but also to face the challenges that Grace has pointed out, challenges like social inequalities, climate change, and so on and so forth. So we hope the knowledge that we gather together and we produce together, and it is presented in such report, can actually help us to strengthen partnerships to cope with those challenges. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Mr. Esteves. So right now, I want to transition to the panel discussion. So first, the GPI has a new animation video. So I invite Giovanna, a GPI focal point, to present it to us, this special video.
Thank you very much, Catalina. It's a pleasure to introduce the video on behalf of Global Affairs Canada. The GPI and Global Affairs Canada are proud to introduce the video on the voluntary guidelines for effective triangular cooperation. This video, developed in close consultation with all core group members of the GPI, will soon be available in 4 languages, so English, French, Arabic, and Spanish. Triangular cooperation is definitely a transformative modality that offers an adaptable and flexible approach to evolving development challenges, where all partners bring in knowledge and expertise, which encourage innovation and co-creation, as Paulo just mentioned, leading to shared and mutual benefits. In itself, I think the video is an example of how partners can bring in knowledge and expertise, as the video and also the paper we are launching today. And it was only possible for Global Affairs Canada to produce this video, and in different language versions, also thanks to the generous contributions of time and expertise of the Islamic Development Bank, AGCID Chile, and AMEXID. The voluntary guidelines represent a shared commitment to effectiveness, and Global Affairs Canada and the other core group members of the GPI hope that this video will assist all of us in keeping effectiveness at the core of our triangular cooperation projects and in spreading the word of effective triangular cooperation. So thank you very much for everyone involved. I hope you enjoy this 1.5 minute animation video.
Voluntary guidelines for effective triangular cooperation. Effective triangular cooperation is a powerful collaborative mechanism for resolving development challenges and implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. To promote its success, the Global Partnership Initiative on Effective Triangular Cooperation has developed 9 core principles to guide the partners. 1. Country ownership and demand-driven cooperation. 2. Shared commitment. 3. Focus on results-oriented approaches and solutions. 4. Inclusive partnerships and multi-stakeholder dialogues. 5. Transparency and mutual accountability. 6. Innovation and co-creation. 7. Joint learning and knowledge sharing for sustainable development. 8. advance gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. 9. Leaving no one behind. When all partners adhere to these voluntary guidelines, responsibility for the project is shared. Knowledge is exchanged at every step, and transparency and accountability are assured throughout the process. Each stage of the project, from identifying an issue and designing a solution to implementing and evaluating it, can be as effective as possible. The result is strong collaborations bringing tangible improvements and sustainable development. Effective triangular cooperation, the future of collaborative development.
Okay, many thanks for this important video. So we will start based on this video that is very good to frame the discussions now. We will start with our panelists. I will like to let you know that all participants may use the chat and the Q&A tool to interact and send questions to the panel. For us, it's very important to have questions from your side once we end this panel, so we can also start making this listening to your questions. So we will start with Mr. Hironobu Murakami, Deputy Director General of the Economic Development Department and Group Director for Private Sector Development at the Japan International Cooperation Agency, a core group member of the GPI. Mr. Murakami, I know it's very late in Japan, so I do believe it is best we can start with you. Thank you very much for being here with us today. You have the floor. Please, Mr. Murakami.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Can I share my PowerPoint because of my mode is not allowed to share my PowerPoint. Okay, now I would like to share.
Giovanna, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see? Can you see?
Yes, we can see, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for introducing me, and thank you for having me today. I'm very proud of being part of you. I'm Murakami, Deputy Director General of Economic Development Department of JICA, Tokyo. Today, I'd like to share with you the example of triangular cooperation of Kaizen in Africa. Kaizen, what is Kaizen? Kaizen is a widely adopted practice developed in Japan to improve productivity and quality, to enhance managerial capital, to make firms competitive. I suppose one of you already know there are several key attributes of Kaizen, which is continuous improvement, and improving quality and productivity at the farm level, and inclusive and participatory approaches, and 5S QCC, quality control circles, and just-in-time inventory. These are well-known Kaizen tools. And the TQC, totally quality control, and the TQM, totally quality management, TPS, Toyota Production System. These are one of the most systematic and advanced Japanese Kaizen systems. One of the tools of Kaizen is well-known 5S approaches for better workplace. And the idea for cleanness and sanitation is built in. Seiri, Seiton, Seiso, Seiketsu, Shitsuke. These are Japanese words signifying sorting, setting in order, shine or cleaning, standardize, maintaining, sustain, or discipline. And you can see the difference between before and after introducing 5S practices in the shoe workshop in Tanzania. One was an example of the technical cooperation project of JICA for the capacity development of Kaizen implementation in Africa is in Ethiopia. We are working with Ethiopian Kaizen Institute, introducing advanced Kaizen training for local Ethiopian Kaizen consultants. 1 month with 1 month classroom training and 6 months in-company training for one pool. And you will see the difference between before and after of Kaizen implementation in the in-company training. In collaboration with AU Development Agency out of NEPAD, we launched the Africa Kaizen Initiative to roll out Kaizen throughout Africa since 2017. This initiative is an example of triangular cooperation to expand a Kaizen approach from Center of Excellence countries such as Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Cameroon, to neighboring countries in collaboration with NEPAD. And example of the effective triangular cooperation of Kaizen in response to COVID-19, we are working with Cameroon government to contribute to business continuity of client company of the Kaizen projects for product development such as masks, medical equipment, and product improvement under the COVID-19 crisis. Client companies of the Cameroonian Kaizen consultants, which we are working, they are introducing the COVID-19 responses, such as sanitary measures at their factories and development hand washing equipment in their factories. And Cameroonian top Kaizen consultants trained by JICA contributed to the quality mask production in Central African Republic and Mali through the virtual training session organized by UNDP, utilizing the e-learning video of YouTube. You can see with this link, this e-learning video. So these are the examples of the leveraging triangular partnerships to respond to COVID-19 and build what better from the pandemic. Thank you for listening.
Many thanks, Mr. Murakami. I believe it was a very important and very practical presentation. Our second speaker is Mr. Imad Al-Suhairi. He is Director General of the Palestinian International Cooperation Agency, an active member of the analytical work stream. So please, Mr. Al-Suhairi, you have the floor. You have 5 minutes to do your presentation. Mr. Al-Suhairi.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You hear me? Okay.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm honored to be invited by the Global Partnership Initiative on Effective Triangular Cooperation, which provides a valuable forum for policy practitioners and experts to discuss crucial global issues, including to promote triangular cooperation for effective development cooperation, responding to the development challenges triggered by the pandemic. I consider the GPI to be an important platform where experts can share on how to tackle some of the world's most pressing challenges. And I look forward to exploring further avenues of collaboration and engagement between our partners. We recognize the role of the GPI as a platform that can help to identify and build triangular cooperation opportunities to find innovative solutions in areas such as health, economic recovery, and education. My focus today will be on PICA's contributions. It can potentially cover adaptation measures, lessons learned, the potential for TRC in response to COVID-19, and look into the future of this modality. This webinar is a long-awaited event. The list of participants is quite impressive. We expect a lively discussion. May I take this opportunity to convey my very best wishes for an effective, successful, and productive webinar. PICA has been playing a major role in promoting SSC and TRC as an innovative approach in international development. Adopting the triangular cooperation approach in international development requires combined global efforts and know-how to promote common interests internationally and change the landscape of development cooperation. Since its inception, the main objective of PICA has been to undertake SSTRC initiatives in order to identify and share innovative development solutions in line with the UN 2030 SDGs. PICA, in partnership with the Islamic Development Bank and other technical agencies from the global south, is working on a platform for good and experience in Palestine will enhance the capacities and abilities to collaborate on an international scale. This exercise will identify experts and resource centers that can carry out innovative interventions that respond to real development constraints in aid of South-South and triangular cooperation initiatives. It will also develop a report of the experts and resource centers profiles to act as a comprehensive database accessible to local and international partners. Furthermore, identify new resources to develop, enhance, and sustain goals. Determine of whether existing resources are being used effectively to achieve expected outcomes, and improve alignment and coordination of resources. In June 2020, PICA launched the Busala program in partnership with the Higher Council for Innovation and Excellence. The initiative engages the private sector, academia, and NGOs. It aims to connect Palestinian innovation and the development needs of marginalized communities across the Global South. By incorporating a triangular cooperation component, Palestinian innovators, entrepreneurial teams, and startups will have the potential to apply, test, and scale up their innovative solutions to tackle global development challenges. Most importantly, the spirit of Busala Innovation Challenge focuses on SDG 17. In spite of the restrictions imposed due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic since early 2020, the organizers of the event managed to implement and finalize most of the competition stages virtually, succeeded in evaluating a total of 117 online applications divided into 3 main categories based on their growth stages. 1, idea stage project. 2, prototype minimum viable product. 3, startups. Similarly, in cooperation with the Policy Center for International Aid, PCPM, PICA conducted several virtual capacity building programs aiming at supporting the skills of the personnel of the Palestinian Rapid Response and Rescue Team. It focused on enhancing crisis management capacities, improving crisis responses, adopting the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Assistance, UN OCHA, and the International Search and Rescue Advisory Group working methodologies during disasters. Actually, still working today on very important programs with our partner, mainly the Islamic Development Bank, and we're working together to establish the national laboratories in Sudan and one very important program in Mauritania for the benefit of the agricultural sector. We'll continue to engage with all our partners, and we will be up to the expectations, hopefully. And I thank you very much and looking forward to strengthen our cooperation with all of you.
Many thanks, Mr. Al-Suhairi. I believe you expressed many achievements on triangular cooperation, so congratulations. I now would like to give the floor to Mrs. Maria Elena Alcaraz. She is the coordinator of International Fora for Development Cooperation at the Mexican Agency of International Cooperation for Development, AMEXIT, a GPI core group member. So please, Mrs. Alcaraz, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction, Madam Chair. Good morning, good day, good evening to all, colleagues and participants from all over the world. Thank you for being here to help us celebrate the launch of this important document, the first joint publication of the GPI core group members and other international organizations and individuals that kindly collaborated with us to present to the public with evidence on how we all can use triangular cooperation and solidarity partnerships to improve lives everywhere, especially during these hard times we are all experiencing due to the COVID-19 pandemic and its multidimensional impacts globally. For Mexico and its cooperation agency, AMEXID, being part of the GPI core group is important because within this group, we are helping to promote and expand the use of triangular cooperation throughout the world. Since we know that some of the technical cooperation we have offered and received for many years has been indeed triangular, even before the modality had a proper name and was recognized as such internationally. We are convinced of the benefits and value added of triangular cooperation as a complement to South-South cooperation, as stated in the PAPA Plus 40 outcome document, due to the horizontality of its nature and the solidarity it fosters, where donors and beneficiaries are pairs in co-creating the project to be implemented based on the specific needs and priorities of the receiving partner. This, in turn, promotes innovation in its design and implementation and ensures its appropriation by all involved, building along the way more trust among the partners, a key element to the success and sustainability of the project. It is important to mention that in triangular cooperation projects, ideally, there are several beneficiaries who share the same or a similar need according to their national development programs, for whom the project is tailored, and which is likely to be financed by one or more partners from the North and count on the technical expertise of partners from the Global South. Here, it is also important to say that by having more than one beneficiary, transaction costs are also reduced, an ever-present worry of financial donors. Another value added of triangular cooperation is that it makes room for innovation and flexibility, because the voluntary guidelines we came up with at the GPI are just that, which you just saw, guidelines. But the project partners have the opportunity to create their own rules for the specific project. Thus, the flexibility of design and project implementation with better coordination among partners, generating innovation for the benefit of all involved. And this is another plus to triangular cooperation, a win-win strategy, because we all win by learning something from the exchange of experience and best practices, whether we are at the receiving or at the offering end. As you will read in the brief, during this time of pandemic, Mexico has used triangular cooperation in different ways. Back in March 2020, at the UN General Assembly, we garnered support from member states for the resounding approval of Resolution 74/274, which aimed to ensure equal access to the then much needed medical supplies and medications to combat the new coronavirus, and foreseeing down the road where we are now, to promote fair and equal access to vaccines, especially to the neediest countries, through the creation of the COVAX mechanism. In April, my government sought multi-sector cooperation within the country to produce a local respirator, which was used using the opening industrial research made available from other countries, and putting together an alliance of private companies, scientists, and government experts to come up with in a very short period of time with their own respirator, which was used by Mexican hospitals, and also a portion of the product was donated to several countries in Latin America and the Caribbean as they needed them. By September last year, Mexico joined forces with Argentina to negotiate with British-Swedish laboratory AstraZeneca and Oxford University to produce their vaccine. By February this year, with the assistance of Mexico Slim Foundation and private sector laboratories, Argentina started producing the biologic, which was sent to Mexico to be bottled and distributed in the Latin American and Caribbean region. Also, from its contract with AstraZeneca, Mexico has donated and delivered close to 2 million doses of the vaccine to Belize, Bolivia, Guatemala, Honduras, Jamaica, Nicaragua, and Paraguay. And my government plans to continue this solidarity program for as long as it's needed in the region. And today, Mexico is also bottling the active biologic of China's CanSino and Russia's Sputnik vaccines that will also be used for Mexican needs and hopefully to be distributed to other countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, and hopefully also to be donated to the as per the needs of each country. As you can also read in the brief, triangular cooperation is being used in other Latin American countries, such as Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Peru, and Uruguay, working together with the assistance of Germany, Norway, and the UNDP, among other development cooperation partners. Furthermore, the 17 countries in continental Latin America, plus Cuba and the Dominican Republic, together with our partners in the Iberic Peninsula, that is Andorra, Portugal, and Spain, we are expanding our bi-regional cooperation projects with triangular initiatives through the Ibero-American Program for Strengthening South-South Cooperation, PIPS, where the 22 countries work together to fulfill our common needs through capacity building, technical exchange, and knowledge sharing, aimed at sustainable and innovating projects to help us all recover from the different impacts of the ongoing pandemic, building back better so that we don't leave anyone behind, as we also contribute in reaching the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, always mindful of gender equality and environmental protection, including wherever possible, local governments, the private sector, academia, and civil society. Finally, I would like to mention that through South-South and triangular cooperation, the ground is laid as leverage for humanitarian assistance among partners. Such has been the case lately with the critical increase of COVID-19 contagion in India and Argentina, when many of us assisted them to overcome their crisis by providing medical and vaccine assistance. Or also the recent natural disasters caused by storms in Cuba and the devastating earthquake in Haiti, where we at the Global South have contributed to assist to the best of our capabilities. Finally, before I finish, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the GPI member group, core group members and contributors to this collective effort to create this timely brief. Also to Catalina Quintero from APC Colombia for agreeing to moderate this panel. And most importantly, thank our GPI focal point, Giovanna Socal, who you met earlier, for her great work in keeping us all in line to finish our assigned tasks on time. I thank you very much.
Well, many thanks, Ms. Sarkadas. You mentioned many key aspects of the triangular cooperation, such as a complement of the South cooperation, the solidarity, the horizontality of this type of cooperation, and of course, the innovation, and flexibility of this type of cooperation. Before I give the floor, I would like to remind you again that you can use the questions and answers tool to interact and send the questions to the panelists. So now I will give the floor to Mr. Govind Venus Prasad. He is the coordinator of the CETA program supporting India trade and investment for Africa at the International Trade Center, a member of the Analytical and Operation Work Stream. Please, Mr. Venus Prat, you have the floor.
Madam Moderator, keynote speakers, fellow panelists, distinguished participants. Many thanks for giving me the opportunity to join you today. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on your time zones. I'd like now to share my screen and I seem to have a problem getting my presentation on. Giovanna, can I ask for?
Yes, we can do it for you, Govind.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is the screen on?
We are seeing your screen, Govind, but if you wish, we can. Yes,
is that okay?
Yes,
all right,
it is on.
fantastic. Thank you very much. And I was about to talk about how good we are going online. So thank you very much to all of you. And I'd like to just quickly take you through to how we have pivoted during the pandemic, and to take you through some of the results that we have achieved since 2020, despite very, very trying conditions that have really tested our resilience. Despite these restrictions, we were agile and in our response, and I think we had a bit of a head start because we had always used digital in our program delivery even earlier. So basically, we had 5 salient highlights. We did a lot of online training programs, which also allowed for peer learning. We supported over 300 to 400 of our companies, but particularly those in Ethiopia and Rwanda, in producing personal protective equipment, including masks. We continued with conducting virtual assessments of production facilities to gauge environmental compliance. And we were continuing to work towards our core activities of promoting trade and investment between India and East Africa, as well as organizing online B2B events to fill the gap caused by travel restrictions and supply chain disruptions. Now, to give you some of those, we had over 25 plus trainings, which were diverse, and these were since March 2020 when the lockdown first came in. And they ranged from access to finance, contract preparation, through to trainings on achieving HACCP, which is food safety, and Leather Working Group certifications, which Leather Working Group is the environmental gold standard for the industry. Now, these trainings saw participation of over 500 across the private sector, micro, small and medium enterprise owners, local government officials, academics, business support organization representatives. An online format mostly softened capacity constraints and allowed for a larger number of people to benefit from trainings, giving rise to better peer learning and networking opportunities. I think for us, particularly the level of satisfaction among trainees, which was about 90% on average, was very important, because I think online trainings remove or lessen the bias, because there are no free meals and accommodation that come as a part of the training. So I think we were quite okay on that. Furthermore, in terms of business support organization strengthening, we trained 41 business support organizations from India and 5 East African countries on ITC's market analysis tools and environmental compliance. This training was over 8 weeks, and we had a 100% satisfaction rate. And we have seen that there has been an increase in research and market brief output from all these organizations that we've been following ever since. In Ethiopia, we had incubated the country's first ever producer-owned handloom company in cooperation with the Ethiopian Institute of Textile and Fashion Technology, or ITEX, which is part of the Bahir Dar University in Amara province. Now, there we found that apart from helping codify the social enterprise laws in Ethiopia, the unit was very quickly able to pivot to manufacturing masks. Now, 85,000 is not a big number, but when we multiply it by 20, because these were reusable masks, they're the equivalent of 1.7 million normal disposable masks. And with our guidance and support, this unit was able to also produce 8,000 pieces of personal protection equipment, all of which were compliant with international standards. Furthermore, about 4 million masks were produced by a women-owned consortium of textile companies in Rwanda with material sourced from India. And this was the AMG group, which is the women-owned consortium of apparel manufacturers. And the 4 million masks contributed crucially to the supply of the product in the country at a time when prices were very high because of global demand. Now, starting from 2020, a lot of our efforts were channeled towards improving environmental compliance in East Africa. Following a request from the government of Kenya, we undertook a fully virtual assessment of an effluent treatment plant at Rivatex. Rivatex is one of East Africa's largest integrated textile mills. And it's located, as I mentioned, in Kenya, where despite the installation of an environmental treatment plant, the products did not meet international standards. This threatened the mill with a loss of orders. Our technical experts were able to conduct the assessment through video calls and prepared a detailed report on recommended action points. Once the travel restrictions were lifted, we were able to organize a face-to-face training for 20 of their frontline staff on chemical and wastewater management. This has resulted in the attainment of zero discharge of hazardous chemicals, ZDHC, as well as they have been able to gain membership of the Society of Dyers and Colorists, which has enabled them for a certification that is recognized throughout the industry. Since then, this plant has secured orders, including from international buyers. We have also facilitated a virtual B2B between them and environmentally conscious suppliers of chemicals and other inputs. Despite the constraints to business travel and networking, we've continued our core activities of promoting trade and investment between East Africa and India, and achieved most of our targets set out. Additional exports of $10 million US. We also have a strong investment pipeline just generated during the period of the pandemic of about $50 million US. We must remember that our investors are small and medium enterprises. So though the ticket size may look small, the effort is really big. We have also during this time introduced 11 new crops in pulses, oilseeds, and spices as a part of crop diversification strategies. This is to hedge farm incomes and incorporate climate-smart agriculture in our 5 East African countries. Our beneficiary companies have also attended global B2B fairs in spices and leather. The International Spices Conference, where 71 companies where International Spices Conference, where 57 companies participated, and the Asia Pacific Leather Fair, where 14 tanneries participated. COVID-19 and the ensuing travel restrictions severely limited opportunities to access trade fairs and engage in business-to-business meetings, which were an essential business development activity. We filled this gap through a virtual platform that we designed, and these events for the agri and business, agri and the textile and apparel sectors. We had 700 participants, most of them MSMEs from over 10 countries. There were over 500 B2B meetings, and 80% of the meetings were rated to have been useful to business on average. Over 7,000 leads, business leads, were generated on the platform. There were over 4,500 visits to the virtual booths that we had on the platform, and over 6,000 profile views of buyers and sellers. These events, besides being a marketplace, they also featured 7 technical sessions on relevant value chain technology, access to finance, farm mechanization, for example, and these were attended by over 300 participants. The pandemic has dealt a blow to normal program delivery, of course, and our resilience, as I had mentioned earlier, has been tested. However, we have discovered that operational flexibility is of paramount importance. One needs to be able to pivot fast and continue delivery. This allows us to be equally effective online and offline while increasing our reach. During this time, we also piloted and perfected hybrid events with both online and offline modules, which have been highly effective. While training programs are easy to replicate virtually, business meetings to discuss trade and investment deals seem to yield better results after a physical meeting. This we have to admit. However, building of trust and confidence are key to a successful business deal, and online interactions, while not being particularly conducive, can at least help break the ice and initiate trust building. The upheaval caused by the pandemic has afforded the manufacturing sector in East Africa a kind of a reverse opportunity to rebuild in a greener fashion, with more attention to environmental standards and compliance, which are increasingly critical to enter global value chains. In all our efforts to rebuild, South-South and triangular cooperation can play an integral role. Scale up local initiatives, replicating success stories in the global South, and easing access to development finance, among others, especially in areas such as renewable energy and climate-smart agriculture. South-South and triangular cooperation have proven to be a successful tool in disseminating knowledge and technical know-how. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I will stop for now. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to answering any questions that may be forthcoming. Thank you very much once again.
Many thanks, Mr. Venusbrat. I believe that what you mentioned in the last part, that triangular cooperation is an excellent and successful tool in disseminating knowledge and expertise. So many thanks, Mr. Venusbrat. Now, last but surely not least, Mr. Helge Espe, Senior Advisor of the Norwegian Agency for Exchange Cooperation, NOREC, is the most recent core group member of the GPI. Please, Mr. Espe, you have the floor.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you for the invitation, and greetings to all participants, colleagues, friends, and a happy South-South Cooperation Day to all of you. I think by now we have been living through the pandemic situation about 1.5 years. The pandemic has, as we know, affected the lives of millions of people. I attended the high-level political forum last July. It was a bit depressing. The HLPF documented decreased gross national income in many countries, even recession in many states, increased unemployment, especially among youth, decreased family income and living standard, and not at least failing social security networks. And of course, the implementation of Agenda 2030 has fallen back with several years. But at the same time, I think through the pandemic, we have seen a lot of new ideas, innovation, and we have seen really the ability to adapt and change to the new situation. New program approaches, new strategies have been put in place by force, so to speak. We see redefinitions of roles and tasks. We see agencies scaling up and down and adapting. This is also documented, I think, in the report we are launching today. We also know that virtual meetings and conferences have really taken over for all the business travel we used to do. And many of these changes are here to stay. I think we do not believe that the world will return exactly to what it was. As regards my agency in NOREC, I would just like to mention a couple of points. The point of departure is, of course, that the BAPA +40 outcome document recognizes personnel exchange as an important dimension of South-South and triangular cooperation. Now, about 70% of all of NOREC's projects are South-South or triangular projects. NOREC is a personnel exchange agency, and we exchange people south to north, north to south, and a lot south-south and in triangular fashion. So I think it's easy for you to understand that for an agency with the main purpose to send people around in the world, we faced some difficulties in March last year and up to now when countries started to close down. What happened then? I think 2 points are of interest. First of all, in March last year, we saw that the vast majority of experts being recruited in the South remained on their jobs and continued to share and exchange knowledge in the host country. That was both in southern host countries as well as those who were in Norway at the time. In contrast, the Norwegian experts, they chose to go home in March last year. So South-South exchange proved to be a more robust, sustainable, and effective mode in this crisis situation. I think this is an important point to note. The second point is, of course, virtual exchange that we all now try to do, exchange of competence. Instead of the previous focus on physical travel, NOREC has to focus on exchange of competence by virtual means and try to facilitate so partners can come together virtually. And of course, Teams and Zoom have replaced the physical travel between them. We have the belief that it's important to keep partnerships alive to virtual means until the day we can meet again. So we are actually funding and financing that part of keeping partnerships alive while we hope for better times. Finally, I would like to offer 3 more general comments to the international development cooperation sector in the present situation. I will try to be short. The first important point for me is triangular cooperation and horizontality. I think it is essential for building back better and after the pandemic catch up with the backlog of Agenda 2030, that we have to share knowledge and to have exchanges between the stakeholders and partners in development. But now we also know that it's a well-established pedagogical principle that sustainable learning is more likely to happen between equal partners who mutually recognize each other than in a traditional teacher and pupil setting. In a true horizontal partnership, each stakeholder can both contribute finance, it can contribute technical knowledge, but it can also benefit as a learning, benefit from learning and be a recipient at the same time. So this is for me a true horizontal partnership. Everybody have something to learn and something to offer. And I think we will recover more effectively after COVID if we realize that. My second point is on the regulatory measures that have also been briefly mentioned. All countries have put in place regulatory measures to try to curb the pandemic globally. And not only on free movements and individuals in country, but also on international cross-border travel, naturally. So we hope that these restrictions will not last longer than they have to. Triangular cooperation, as we believe it, rests on the possibility to visit each other and to not have unnecessary regulatory barriers for these visits to happen. Of course, a lot of things can be done on screen, but there are also some qualities that the personal meeting has that the screen cannot really replace. And I'll mention maybe two of them. Is that we have found it difficult to create new alliances and new partnerships on screen. What we do on screen is to maintain our old friends, our old partners to a good extent, but it's difficult to get new ones. The second one is, of course, that we also believe that the personal meeting has a quality in creating trust, and trust is essential in all partnerships. And of course, we can trust each other virtually as well, but we believe we want to get back to a situation where we can have the qualities of direct interaction, deeper learning, and also on the job training. So please, we must work back for more open borders. My last point is that we also have to, I think, fight for the narrative, the COVID narrative for our sector. How should we understand and frame COVID in the context of globalization and international cooperation? We know that the curbing of the pandemic has been administered through national measures, and it has really strengthened the role of the nation state and its authority. And I think for us in the international cooperation sector, we have to maintain that it is well and good, but we have to also continue to advocate for common solutions and for international rally behind fighting the pandemic, as well as for in general have a narrative where we say that international cooperation basically is a good thing. That I think is also important, and particularly if our cooperation also is truly horizontal, respectful, and reciprocal, then we are on a good way, including for South-South and triangular cooperation. So I thank you.
Okay, many thanks, Mr. Espe. I believe you mentioned many of our principles on South-South cooperation and triangular cooperation. Just as was mentioned before, the importance of horizontality in this type of cooperation to help us building back better in this pandemic time. So I don't see any questions from the assistants. So I just want to remind you that the brief and all the paper is available in English and Spanish. You see the screen here. You have the versions in Spanish and in English, and you have the link in the chat so you can download this important document. So since I don't have any questions, I just want to make a conclusions of this part of the, yes?
If I may, there is a question from the Q&A.
Okay. I
can read it for you if you want, but as you wish.
No, no, I see it, sorry. We have questions. Many thanks, Helge, for your interesting contribution. I think it gave us several strong arguments in favor of extending and strengthening triangular cooperation that hopefully will be widely heard. So it's more than a question, a comment from the assistants and participants. Do you have any other question, Giovanna?
There is someone with a raised hand, Ana Fernandez.
Okay. Yes, Miss Ana.
Hello, everyone. As everyone was saying, good morning, good afternoon. I don't know if good evening also. So it was a pleasure to hear all the colleagues about the paper and also about their projects. I just wanted to ask one brief question to all of you. I think we still have a little bit of time for that, which is doing this paper and contributing to this paper and building on what El just said about the rationale for triangle cooperation. What would be, in your view, the kind of wording, the sentence that we could learn from this paper in terms of socializing the importance of triangle cooperation as an answer to some of the COVID challenges. So, very briefly, I know we are already with our director also from the OECD, waiting for the closing remarks, but just to get their view from you on the paper. And again, congratulations for the GPI to put all this together. It's a common effort, and very, very happy to have participated on it.
So I think we could start from the beginning. First, I don't know, here, Mr. Al-Suhairi, you have the floor to answer.
Thank you for choosing me to answer this question. Actually, some lessons learned from this pandemic. No individual solution, no national solution, no matter what the country, how powerful it is economically, how powerful it is militarily, how powerful it is financially. It has proven that collectivism, collective work, working together might bring us all to find a solution. I don't think that an individual country can itself face such a global challenge. I would say moving from individualism to collectivism to face the current challenges. That would be my answer.
Okay, many thanks. Mrs. Maria Elena, you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you very much, Catalina. Well, in trying to answer Anna, first of all, thank you, Anna, for your promotion of the GPI. It's thanks to you and the OECD, the CAD, that we're all here. Thank you. And in answering your question, what would be a short answer? It works. Triangular cooperation works because it really brings us together. Whether we are facilitators, the pivotal part, or the beneficiary part. As we've said, Helga and I, we all learn. We all learn, and in the process of cooperating and coordinating with our partners and stakeholders, we all provide and we all learn. As Mr. Sawahiri just said, no country, no one entity can do it alone. We have to act collectively, internationally, and this is what, to me, triangular cooperation is. It works, and it brings us all together. So let's move on to it. Thank you.
Many thanks. So, Mr. Govin, do you want to send an answer to this question?
Thank you. I thought I somehow heard that we need to have a one-liner. And, well, I would think that triangularity results in knowledge and solutions for our planet's resilience. I think COVID has brought that message clearer and closer to us. Thank you very much.
Very concise. Many thanks. And Mr. Helge?
Thank you. I think what Anna is raising here is something she and her team and some of us are trying to find an answer to already, namely the famous elevator pitch. How can we, in a short 1 or 2 sentences, why the elevator moves from floor 1 to 5, how can we express really the essence of South-South cooperation? And I look forward to the results of the workshop we had on that subject the other day. And I think we also agree that we have to phrase our message a bit differently to different groups, because some will react better on hard facts and evaluations. And for some, it is more a political principle, a question of solidarity. So we may need several elevator pitches. Thank you.
So many thanks. I didn't see any other questions. So I believe the excellent panelists and of course the document show us the importance of triangular cooperation and the power of alliances. Through the joint work amongst multilateral organisms, private sector actors, development bank, southern countries to overcome the effects of the pandemic in a wide range of fields. So I believe this document will help us all the practitioners and the persons and organizations involved in the cooperation to learn more about triangular cooperation and to build back better in these pandemic times. So now, after
Catalina,
this, yes,
if I may, there is another question, and I see
I
you
see
still
it.
have a few minutes. So if
Okay.
I may,
Yes.
it's from Lara from this Ibero-American Program for Strengthening South-South Cooperation, and she's asking what should we do to enhance triangular cooperation. I do see her question related also to the recommendations the co-authors give in the paper. So this is another question.
Okay, so who wants to answer this question, this important question of all of you, 4 of you? So I will give the floor to Miss Anna from Amexit.
Hi, Catalina, Maria Elena.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. Of course, Ana Fernandez can also answer. But I think what we need to do to enhance triangular cooperation is as Helga mentioned, it's very hard to start new relationships by video. But we all do have partners and stakeholders. So we need to bring them into the fold. And that is among agencies, among the international cooperation community, but also within our countries, the multi-sector, the private sector, academia, civil society, because they are also not only partners in cooperation projects, but also can spread the word on how we can all work together to, as you said, to build back better and leave no one behind. And that is, I think, part of the message, maybe the elevator message, as Celia was calling it. It can be different one-liners. And one of them, I think it is this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Helge.
Thank you. The short answer is, of course, join our marketplace initiative tomorrow, get inspiration, find friends there, and then with that inspiration, go home and work with your various constituencies in the countries that you are. And also there are so many resources for inspiration from the UN office and from GPI and OECD and many others, and GPI is there to facilitate and try to tell where the resources you need, where they are. So this is as far as I think I can say in a short sentence.
Thank you. Mr. Govin.
Thank you, moderator. I think what we've heard from the two panelists who answered before me makes eminent sense, and I think in many ways what Mr. Helge Espe from Norec said in the first instance makes sense. But I would just go so far as to say that we need to separate the narratives. He had mentioned, there are political compulsions of political narratives. I think we need to separate the developmental narrative from the political narrative and match resources to demand. And none of this is rocket science. And I've been told that an elevator pitch can be as long as 120 seconds, after which anybody loses their attention span. Thank you.
Mr. Murakami, I don't know if you are there.
Thank you very much giving me the chance to speak. Yes, I think the importance of the enhancement of the triangle cooperation is the enhancement of the ownership of partner countries. For example, I have mentioned the Outer NEPAD initiative for Africa Kaizen initiative. We have been working with Outer NEPAD since 2017, and now the ownership of the Outer NEPAD is becoming very high. And this is especially in this difficult situation of COVID-19, because most of our communication is virtual now, and most of our exchange between the membership countries of this Africa Kaizen Institute, now the Outer NEPAD taking leads to implement this initiative virtually. So, and now this initiative is becoming very effective as a triangular cooperation. So the ownership enhancement of the partner countries and partner institution is very important to have the effective triangular partnership. So this situation turns adversity into opportunity, I suppose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Mr. Suhairi, Al-Suhairi, sorry.
Well, I would echo what my previous colleagues just said. If I may add some additional points, I would say increasing communication and coordination among all parties concerned. Secondly, defining capacities and resources from one side, defining as well the needs and priorities from the other side, and creating some kind of a mechanism where needs and priorities are met with resources and capacities. I would also continue to encourage international organizations to push forward South-South and triangular cooperation and try to find the necessary resources to engage in these activities. At the end, I would say we have to be convinced that the human resources and the human capital is not less important than the financial means. When financial means meet human resources, then we can talk better about the triangular cooperation. Last thing I would add is to continue encouraging your initiatives like the GPI, like SSC, what the Islamic Development Bank is doing in terms of reverse linkage, South-South cooperation, and triangular cooperation. Trust me, such kind of meetings and gatherings are very important and useful to open the eyes on different issues, different aspects that are related to triangular and South-South cooperation.
Okay, many thanks for your answers. I will read some comments from the chat. One comment is from ISDB. Triangular cooperation complements North-South-South cooperation and South-South cooperation. Enhancing the ecosystem for triangular cooperation is a necessity, including establishing fund mechanisms to support triangular cooperation initiatives. And there's another comment from Sanofer Ismaileve. Those countries that are active in triangular cooperation, including southern countries, should play an active role in political intergovernmental negotiations and discourse by leveraging the space they may have within different groups. So these are the final comments from the participants. So I believe this is the end of our panel. So we like to thank you to all the panelists and everyone in the audience engaging in this important debate. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Jorge Moreira da Silva. Mr. Moreira, welcome. You are the director of the OETD's Development Cooperation Directorate and core group member of the Global Partnership Initiative on Effective Triangular Cooperation. The OECD has served as a knowledge hub for triangular cooperation and has a vital role in engaging and promoting the work of the GPI. What is your message to close today's discussions on triangular cooperation? You have the floor, Mr. Jorge Moreira.
Thank you very much, Ms. Catalina Quintero. Dear Catalina, it's a great pleasure to be with you and all colleagues today. This is the fourth time I speak about triangular cooperation in the last 5 days, which shows that the topic is really on the rise. I've seen some of the colleagues today in other panels last week in Egypt, but also yesterday we had a very good discussion at the OECD on cooperation with Africa, where clearly triangular cooperation emerged as a fundamental tool. You are very familiar with the work that my colleague Ana Fernandez and Giovanna are doing in supporting all of you in the core group member on the GPI. As you know, we are strong supporters of triangular cooperation. We collaborated with many of you in the great achievement at the BAPA Plus 40, where triangular cooperation was finally recognized as a fundamental tool in achieving the 2030 agenda and SDGs, and no longer a subset of North-South or South-South. And we have also worked intensively with all of you on the implementation of the GPI action plan since its approval at the Lisbon meeting in 2019. I'm really honored to deliver these closing remarks. I will not be able to do it the 120 elevator pitch. Probably I will do the 180 closing remarks. We think that it's important to congratulate our GPI core group. I think that we shall celebrate the achievements and the relevance of the analytical work stream for this timely and very relevant publication. The brief shares evidence of how triangular cooperation adds value to our fight against the COVID-19 and to our response to the huge setbacks towards achieving the SDGs, especially when extreme poverty has been exacerbated as a consequence of this crisis. Today we heard from several speakers more examples of how we can catalyze additional resources and find innovative solutions through triangular partnerships, be it in public, health, logistics, agriculture, digitalization, and many other sectors. And as Maria Elena was saying, it's important that we learn from each other. The exercise that we are having today, it's a learning exercise, and it's amazing the knowledge sharing that is emerging from these interactive dialogues. Much was already said during the panel discussion, but let me highlight just 3 key messages on the value added of triangular cooperation during our COVID-19 times and beyond the COVID. First, the pandemic highlighted similarities among countries and at the same time the pressing inequalities across the globe. Obviously, inequalities has been triggered by the pandemic within and between countries. The spread of the virus reinforced the importance of strategic partnerships to prepare and overcome crises through multilateralism, global solidarity in an effective, more just and equal way. In this context, we know there is no single solution and no cooperation modality alone is a silver bullet. There are two OECD reports, the Development Cooperation Report 2020 and the Global Outlook on Financing for Sustainable Development, that show that the development cooperation community is at the edge of a moral failure if it misses this opportunity to help. There is a moral imperative here. We need to join forces in this moment to harness effective partnership for horizontal knowledge sharing and innovative thinking. And here Triangle Cooperation really plays a vital role. Second message, regulatory measures of COVID-19 require flexibility and adaptability to continue development projects planned before the pandemic and to establish new partnerships. Triangle Cooperation is very dynamic, robust, and it's also flexible. Let's use Triangle Cooperation partnerships more to foster capacity building, joint learning, promoting complementarities and increasing coordination. And finally, the third message, seeing the broad range of areas where Triangle partnerships are being formed, I think that we need to bridge better thematic discussions and our ways of working. For instance, together with the UN Office on South-South Cooperation, we are currently working on a paper on triangular cooperation with Africa, where we link discussions on megatrends in Africa to working in triangular partnerships. One such megatrend that was already mentioned several occasions today by the distinguished panelists is digitalization. And our development cooperation report, and the next one, the 2021, will explore the topic of shaping a just digital transformation. And this will be a great occasion, again, to emphasize the role of Triangle Cooperation in addressing the digital divide and to untap the potential of digitalization in developing countries. Also in 2020, we published a foresight paper on digital transformation and the futures of civic space to 2030. This paper points to new opportunities as well as growing restrictions on the space for civic society to operate that are exacerbated by COVID-19. To conclude and going forward, we need to mainstream the modality of triangular cooperation into discussions on climate, biodiversity, oceans, digitalization, financing for sustainable development, and of course, the various crises associated with the COVID pandemic. And here at the OECD, at the Development Cooperation Directorate, and also through our work with the GPI as member of the core group, we believe that there is a pressing need to foster effective triangular partnerships for development. And I think that we shall be all encouraged from today's discussion to contribute to and benefit from the GPI as a platform and hub for triangular cooperation. This event and tomorrow's marketplace can be really a starting point for exchange and joint learning. And we look forward to continue working with all of you. Many thanks, Katarina.
Well, many thanks, Mr. Moreira. I believe your closing remarks are the conclusion of all the event. Many thanks for all the conclusions and many thanks for the participants. It was a very interesting discussion. So this is the end of our journey today, but tomorrow we hope to see all the GPI members in the marketplace. We will be sharing many ideas, such as the one we have in APC Colombia, the hub. So we see you tomorrow and many thanks for your participation. Many thanks and good morning, good evening, good night. Goodbye.